Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good afternoon to everyone. Good to see all of you again. But I'm sure there are quite a number of new faces, and the old faces have gone home since I first addressed you in my welcome address 3 months ago. First of all, I'd like to say a big sadhu to everyone, particularly to Pa Outsider for so graciously accepting the invitation of Taiping Insight Meditation Society to have the retreat in SBS, for being so accommodating. For I know that he's got very, very high Vinaya standards, and I suspect that he doesn't quite agree with some of our interpretations and practices of the Vinaya, but he has been very, very accommodating. So I think that is a very, very good example of tolerance and harmony, and that comes out of unconditional loving kindness. So I'd like to say a very big sadhu to Sadhuji, first of all. I would also like to say a big sadhu to all the teachers and the participants of this retreat for raising the spiritual energy of SBS. According to the Visuddhimagga, out of those people who try to practice samatha meditation, only 1 out of 100 or even 1,000 can succeed in doing the preliminary work. And out of those 1 out of 100 or 1,000 who can do the preliminary work of samatha meditation, 1 out of 100 or 1,000 of them can only manage to produce the nimitta. And out of the 100 or 1,000 yogis who could produce the nimitta, only 1 of them can get appana samadhi. So I hear that so many people here in this retreat have got jhanas, arupa jhanas as well. So this is way beyond the standards of Visuddhimagga, and I have to say a big, big sadhu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Today is also a very rare occasion, according to what Sadhu Aggacitta said this morning. He talks about the 5 rarities, 5 durlabhas, difficult to get. The arising of the Buddha, hearing the Dhamma, understanding the Dhamma, putting it into practice, teaching the Dhamma, and also expressing one's gratitude. So we got all of these things here together. We are saying thank you to one another since the morning until now. And all of you, we've got so wonderful teachers here and so fantastic yogis that have gone beyond the expectations of even Visuddhimagga. So big sadhu. Sadhu, sadhu. It has also gone beyond my expectations. When I designed SBS, it was only designed for 20 monks. And now we have got 80 over monastics. Never in our dreams before have we ever thought that SBS could accommodate so many monastics, so many yogis who are so highly attained. Right? Sadhu. But wait a minute. Maybe we shouldn't say sadhu. What is there to say sadhu when you are just kalapas? Right? Kalapa saying sadhu is the kalapa, chitta saying sadhu the chitta. However, I'm just joking, of course. As yogis, we must always learn how to move in and out of ultimate and conventional realities. That is one of those things that we must learn to balance in our life. So it's really a very historic and momentous event for SBS as well as for typing, because I don't think ever before have we had such, an auspicious and seriously meditating yogis coming together during this period of time. So that's why we have postponed our celebrations for Vesak to today to commemorate as well the 20th anniversary of Typing Insight Meditation Society, and making use of the presence of all you fantastic yogis to bless those who are coming for our celebrations as well. I would also like to say a very big sadhu to the organizers, SBS retreat team, and the staff for doing such a wonderful job in making sure that everything runs smoothly, although there are a few hiccups here and there. I must also say special thanks and sadhu to Rinpoche for being the chief organizer. He has really handled the job superbly, especially in taking care of the visa problems of our foreign guests. SBS was created with the help and support of Buddhists from many different traditions, as well as non-Buddhists who are well-wishers of SBS. You can see that, even within a short space of 9 years, we could develop this place in the middle of nowhere because of the support that we got from the public. So it is only fair that although SBS was meant to be a monk training center, it should also share its facilities with its supporters. This beautiful environment just next to the forest with all its natural resources. I hope that all of you had a wonderful time here, and I'm sure you will agree that you enjoyed making use of these facilities. There are a couple of unique things about SBS. One of them is that it's the first Theravada monks training center in Malaysia, and it is also the first retreat center in Malaysia that is open to all traditions. Right now we are opening to Theravada Buddhist traditions of meditation coming from different schools. I'm sure that many of you have tried different methods of meditation before, right? Could you put up your hands? Those of you who have tried Mahasi meditation before, hands up. Okay, how about those who have tried Goenka before? Hands up. Those who have tried Shui Umin before, hands up. Anyone tried Ajahn Chah tradition, Ajahn Brahm? Okay, Ajahn Brahm. How about Ajahn Kanha? Oh, just a few. And Bhante Guna Ratana. Oh, got a few. Okay. Ayakema? Okay, so you see that all of us have gone through different types of meditation before. And often when we go to listen to their Dhamma talks, they always say that this is the Buddha's way. One time, I was talking to one Mahasi meditation teacher, and I happened to mention the word Mahasi method. And immediately he corrected me. He said, no, not Mahasi method. Payani. Oh, Mahasi Ovara Kam Payani. Oh, wait, let me translate that. He says, there's Buddha's method. Buddha's method according to Mahasi instruction. Then we also attended another retreat in another tradition, and then in the Dhamma talk it says that this is the pristine method of vipassana that the Buddha himself meditated and transmitted to Burma. I'm sure that some of you have also heard this when you attended different retreats under different teachers, and so sometimes it causes conflict among ourselves. Now, who is right and who is wrong? And in a place like SBS, when we have so many different teachers from different traditions coming to teach, and when they make such claims, what sort of impact will that have on us as yogis and on the people who have been trying different methods of meditation. So the purpose of my talk today is to show that despite our differences in interpretation and practice, there can still be harmony and mutual respect if we know how. Now, this exclusive claims, is not something very novel. It has happened even during the Buddha's time. It is an ancient problem, I suppose. It plagued mankind right from the beginning that it started its spiritual pursuit. In the famous Kalama Sutta, the Kalamas asked the Buddha, "This Master Gautama, they are recluses and Brahmins, who pass through our town, and they all claim that theirs is the correct path. And then they deprecate, disparage, and say bad things about other teachings. And they say only theirs is correct, others are wrong. And then another group will come and say the same thing. Theirs is right and others are wrong. So we are very confused. What should we do?" Actually, he translated correctly. I didn't say it correctly. I should have said, they asked which of them speak the truth and which falsehood. That's why he translated, right? I just said, what should we do? So he's more correct than me. I'm false. Okay, anyway, then the Buddha said, "Come, Kalamas, don't go by faith, by tradition, by hearsay, by various types of reasoning, by the charisma of a person, nor just because you respect that person as your teacher." So after the Buddha told them that, he said, "If you yourself know what is wholesome and what is unwholesome, what is wholesome is praised by the wise and what is unwholesome is blamed by the wise, and you also know that yourself, then you should pursue what is wholesome and avoid what is unwholesome." In the ensuing dialogue between the Kalamas and the Buddha, he managed to convince them that lobha, dosa, and moha are unwholesome and are blamed by the wise, and the reverse, alobha, adosa, and moha, are wholesome and are praised by the wise. When these things are pursued, they will lead to welfare and happiness. He then went on to talk about the 4 Brahma Viharas, which Venerable Umangala talked about last night. So you would know a lot about it already. Plus, I think some of you would have been doing that in your own meditation. So he talked about these 4 Brahma Viharas, and the Kalamas also agreed that these are things that are wholesome, and if people are engaged in them, then they will avoid from doing unwholesome things. In the end, he concluded that whether or not a person believes in the afterlife or believes in the law of karma, if one pursues all these good things, including the 4 Brahma Viharas, then one can be assured that one will only get good results. Now, this advice was given by the Buddha to the Kalamas, who were presumably not Buddhists. But this advice is also still very relevant today because of so many different spiritual practices available in the world, in the spiritual supermarket, so many products. But it is especially relevant for even Buddhists who prefer to be freelance Buddhists. They don't want to be labeled as Mahayana or Theravada or Mahasi or Pa'ao or Shehumin. They prefer to be freelance, moving from one place to another. For them, this could be a very inspiring sutta. The incident with the Kalamas involved ascetics and Brahmins who were not Buddhists. But what happened if such claims happen among Buddhists? To give you one example, this is not about happening among Buddhists, but an incident happened during the Buddha's time which motivated Venerable Ananda to consult the Buddha about that. And this is found in Samagama Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya 104, where the founder of the Jains, Mahavira, or in Pali we call him Nikanta Nadabuddha, he had just died, and soon after his disciples were quarreling and brawling with one another. So let's have a look at what they actually said according to Samagama Sutta as it is preserved in our Pali canon. You do not understand this Dhamma and discipline. I understand this Dhamma and discipline. How could you understand this Dhamma and discipline? Your way is wrong. My way is correct. I am consistent. You are inconsistent. What should have been said first, you said last. What should have been said last, you said first. What you had so carefully thought up has been turned inside out. Your assertion has been shown up. You are refuted. Go and learn better. Disentangle yourself if you can. The matter was reported to Venerable Ananda by one Samanera called Chunda. And then together they went to see the Buddha and related the whole incident to him. And then Ananda expressed his apprehension that something like that might occur after the Buddha passed away. But the Buddha assured him that at that time there were not even 2 monks who disagreed on the 37 Bodhipakkhiya Dhammas, the 37 wings of awakening or requisites of enlightenment. Then Ananda said, but Bhante, what I'm more afraid of is after you pass away, there might be some monks who might dispute about the Vinaya, about the Patimokkha and the Vinaya. So Ananda said that he felt that such a dispute in the Sangha would be for the harm and unhappiness of many, for the loss, harm and suffering of gods and humans. Then the Buddha answered, a dispute about livelihood or about the Patimokkha, about Vinaya, would be a small matter, Ananda. But should a dispute arise in the Sangha about the path all the way, such a dispute would be for the harm, unhappiness of many, for the loss, harm and suffering of gods and humans. From this Samagama Sutta as well as the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, we can infer that these 37 Bodhipakkhiya Dhammas, the 37 wings of awakening, are the core teachings of the Buddha. Right now, most, if not all, Buddhist schools and traditions agree on this. However, what they may disagree is on how to put them into practice. And if one school or tradition should claim that their method of practice is correct and others are wrong, this could actually lead to serious consequences. But even during the Buddha's time, there were already disputes about Dhamma and Vinaya. Since this is something that has to be settled through certain Vinaya procedures, this is defined in the Vinaya text, Sulavagga. What is the definition of a dispute? There is a case of dispute when monks dispute with one another. How? They say this is the Dhamma, this is not the Dhamma. Then they may say this is Vinaya, this is not Vinaya. Or they may dispute this was spoken by the Buddha, this was not spoken by the Buddha. Or this was practiced by the Buddha, this was not practiced by the Buddha. Or this was proclaimed by the Buddha and this was not proclaimed by the Buddha. Or this is an offense, this is not an offense. This is a light offense, no, this is a grave offense. This is an offense with the remainder, this is an offense without the remainder. This is a gross offense, no, this is not a gross offense. So this sort of dispute has also happened during the Buddha's time. So when people make claims, then how do we evaluate these claims? How do I propose to address this issue of what is the correct method of practice without causing confusion, animosity, and disharmony among the Buddhist community? Well, I propose to follow the advice given by the Buddha and the ancient Theras. And I'm sure that if you were aware of these principles, these guidelines set down by the Buddha and the ancient Theras, you would also try to follow them, wouldn't you? Since I've done different methods of meditation before from different traditions, and I've also read through a lot of extensive literature on different types of meditative practices, as well as read the scriptures myself. Through these years, I have compiled my findings on these principles, these guidelines. So today I want to share with all of you. And I have extracted them from various parts of the Tipitaka, mostly from the suttas and the Vinaya. So in essence, I will give you an overview. It can be classified into preventive and curative measures. And under preventive measures, it can be further classified into 1. Nurture humble attitudes. 2. Abandon the 6 roots of dispute. And 3. To cultivate 6 memorable things that create love and respect and conduce to concord and unity. But if, despite these preventive measures, if a dispute should arise, then the curative measures are 1. To meet cordially, and secondly, to evaluate the claims based on doctrinal and experiential criteria. Now let's go into more detail and look at the preventive measures. There are actually 3 subsections to the preventive measures. The first step is to nurture humble attitudes. And within that, the Buddha encourages us to be equanimous and objective when criticized or praised. This can be found in the Brahmajala Sutta, the introduction to the Brahmajala Sutta, where a Brahmin and his disciples were arguing about the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. And on account of that, the Buddha said to the monks that if somebody should criticize the Buddha, Dhamma, or the Sangha, you should not be emotional about it, but should remain equanimous and objective. If you find that the criticisms are not justified, then you should point them out. And if they should praise you also, to praise the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, one should not be easily flattered, but be equanimous and objective. And if you find that their praise is justified and worthy, then you can admit them, acknowledge them. Another aspect of nurturing humble attitudes is to be cautious when professing a view. This can be found in Chanki Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta number 95. There the Buddha talked about the 5 grounds upon which our beliefs and opinions are based. And these 5 grounds are, first of all, faith, fancy. Fancy means your liking. And thirdly, oral tradition. Fourthly, personal theory. And fifthly, accepting another person's view. The difference between 4 and 5 is that 4, you do your own thinking and you come up with your own theory, whereas in number 5, somebody proposes a theory or a view, you think about it, you find it reasonable, and you accept it. Let's question ourselves for a few moments. If we accept the view or the belief that it is possible to become an arahant in this very life, what is it based on? If you believe in the law of karma, the intricate laws of karma, if you have the view of that, what is it based on? If you believe that the Buddha actually existed, what is it based on? If you believe that man landed on the moon, what is it based on? If you believe that the Twin Towers, what is that called, the World Trade Center, was destroyed because of the terrorists, what is that based on? If you read any newspaper report, if you accept a doctor's prescription or diagnosis, what is it based on? Well, it's probably based on one or a combination of these things, right? So the Buddha cautioned that something that is accepted on any of these grounds may actually be empty, hollow and false, while something else that is not accepted could be true, could be unmistaken, could be factual. So, based on these 5 grounds, it is not sufficient for a wise person who preserves truth to come to the definite conclusion. Only this is true, anything else is wrong. If you believe, or you have this belief or view that it is not necessary to look into past lives or future lives in order to become enlightened, what is this based on? Or if you believe that it is compulsory, mandatory for a person to look into the past life and future life in order to become enlightened, what is this based on? One may argue that it may require a much higher standard of verification, both doctrinal and experiential, in order to come to this conclusion that only this is true, anything else is wrong. However, it is interesting to note that in this sutta, after talking about this, and the Buddha talked about how to actually discover truth, how to evaluate the virtues of a teacher, have faith in him, learn from him, and then eventually realize and arrive finally at truth. Even then, at the end of which the Buddha did not condone this attitude that one could say, only this is true, anything else is wrong. The way I look at this sutta, it shows that we should always be cautious and humble when professing a view or opinion based on any of these grounds or a combination of these grounds, by allowing an element of uncertainty, just like engineers always allow a factor of safety. At best, such views and opinions are merely working hypotheses that remain to be verified by our personal experience. Now, with regard to the path, Magga, and the way, the Patipada, unless and until one becomes a Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, or an Arahant, one's opinion about any method of practice for liberation will still fall within these 5 grounds. And even if one successfully attains to any of these stages of awakening through a particular method, that method is only relevant to your particular temperament. Let's get back to the headings. We were talking about preventive measures, and then one of the first aspects is to nurture a humble attitude. And we talked about being equanimous and objective when being criticized or praised. We also talked about being cautious when professing a view. Now, we are going to talk about being receptive to other people's views. There's an interesting account of an argument between a carpenter by the name of Panchaganga and Venerable Udayi. That's found in the Samyutta Nikaya. You can see the references in the printouts later. At that time, the carpenter Panchaganga was arguing with Venerable Udayi. He says that there are only two types of feelings, although Venerable Udayi says there are three types of feelings. And he says, oh, the Buddha only said there are two. You have good feeling, bad feeling, and then the neutral feeling, because it's not bad, therefore it comes under good. Right? So there are only two, not three. So both of them were arguing. One says two, the other one says three. And finally, this Venerable Ananda overheard their conversation, their argument, and so he went to see the Buddha and related this whole matter to the Buddha. Then what did the Buddha say? The Buddha said that both of them were right. In fact, he said that he had spoken about many kinds of feeling, not just two or three, but up to 108 types of feelings, and according to different methods of exposition. Then the Buddha continued, when the Dhamma has been taught by me in such a way, through different methods of exposition, it may be expected of those who will not concede, allow, and approve of what is well stated and well spoken